Hello. Today, I don't even really know how to title this, but just thinking about having communication with people in your life, relationships that you have, specifically like your partner, and talking with them over a problem or a conflict. I had a really long conversation with my husband this weekend about, a reoccurring issue in our marriage, and I won't talk about what that issue is, I kind of realize, we go around the same circles with it, and, of course, our communication styles are different. He is an ESFP and I am an INFJ, and our thinking and our processing and our speaking are different. So I don't know exactly how to tell you how to communicate with, somebody that is not an NI, is not an introverted intuition user. But I can tell you how not to. And thinking about our conversation and realizing where the patterns lie in how we talk to each other, and then how that gets heated and uncomfortable. And so I'm just going to tell you, just a few things that I kind of have thought about in the last, day or so after our long conversation. He'd been watching a lot of my videos, which I asked him to do just so I can get views, and I wanted his opinion. Say hello to Leo. He is here once again with us, needing some pets. But I asked him to watch some of my videos, and he did watch them, and he had good things to say about them, and he's good at giving constructive criticism most of the time. So I wanted him to watch a few and let me know what he thought. But when you are talking to someone and they are not an NI user, one of the mistakes I make when I get deep into a conversation about issues that I'm having or issues that we are having in our relationship is that I tend to dump out and verbalize my entire NI-TI loop. And it's not helpful because it doesn't really even make a lot of sense to me. And then to dump it all out on a person that doesn't process that way, that doesn't think that way, it can be really confusing for them. And actually, it can be a bit hurtful. I know it can make them try to find blame in themselves, and it might even feel to them like they are being blamed for the issues and for the loop, because maybe something... I find sometimes that things that maybe my husband had said to me, or one of my children, or someone I'm close to, they tend to get entered into that loop. And then if I repeat that back to them, in addition to the 1,000 other thoughts that spill out at the same time, they almost, he almost tries to find blame in himself, or feels like I am blaming him for whatever I'm struggling with. I don't know how much of that loop is appropriate to share, but I know that if you sit down for 5 minutes and dump it all out onto a extroverted sensor, it's not helpful. It is not helpful. It sounds crazy. You get looks like, okay, that is, and my husband, with the way that he sees the world and the way that he processes things, and he wants to give me a solution for every single NITI looping craziness. And I feel I don't really need a solution always. Sometimes I'm asking for one, but I don't always need one. And he is trying to help me. And that's, part of his job description as far as he's concerned. Try to help the crazy wife get out of her crazy. That's what he feels like part of his job is. But the other thing that I've noticed is it's important to not point out their emotional state all the time, because and it is a cliche thing, first thing in the morning, why are you so angry? I'm not angry. I'm not crabby. I'm crabby now because you mentioned it. But it isn't helpful if you point out to a person what their emotional state is. Especially if you're in a conversation that is in depth or is emotionally charged to begin with. And if it's a person that isn't terribly in touch with what their emotions are, or they kind of circulate around only one or two, if you then point out any negative emotion that they are feeling, because you can sense it, pick up on it, and you're then feeling it as well, it isn't helpful to point it out. So I would not recommend that. If you are in an argument or a heated discussion or something that's not lighthearted, to point out their emotional state, specifically after you have dumped your entire NITI loop onto them, is not helpful. I wouldn't recommend it. Sometimes it is helpful if the person is trying to figure out something and they're not sure how they feel, sometimes to just make a little suggestion like, oh, I'm kind of sensing that you're feeling a little disappointed with that. I do that sometimes with my children, because but I usually try to frame it in a way that is almost a suggestion instead of saying, why are you so mad? Oh, it's just crazy, the things that we think about over and over and how it just gets looped out. And I think for me, I never used to dump out my whole looping process thoughts. I never used to just dump them all out, because for me, I felt like I was crazy. I didn't need to be thinking this stuff. And I felt like if I spoke them out, they would become dangerous or something. And since I've been talking to you guys all the time and dumping out my whole thought process and my whole loop, I've found that to be really freeing. So it is really freeing. And if you can find a person, I'm sure one or two of, I have two friends. So both of my friends, I'm sure I could do that for them and dump that all out. And I'm so used to doing it now on camera almost every day that it has become just my way of talking. And, one of the things that my husband has told me that he loves about me is that I am an eccentric weirdo. And he likes that I get so excited and talk about something. But when you're in an argument, or when you're in trying to solve a problem in a relationship type discussion, it's just not helpful to dump it out. So that is what I did this weekend, and it did have a good outcome in the end, I think, or we may have to revisit it. I'm not sure. But there's my ramble for today. I'd love your comments. Do you dump out your entire loop on people? How does it go? Do you have a person that you can do that with that doesn't look at you like you're nuts, that doesn't blame themselves for your looping crazy, is what I call it. I know it's not crazy. I know it's just a way of processing, but for me, it feels crazy sometimes. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. I will see you next time. There's Mr. Leo. I'm going to have to give him some good scratches. He's such a good boy. See ya.